Junior doctors' union leaders are supposed to save patients, not kill them. A new development today means the smarmy militant Dr. Trot union bigwigs will have nowhere to hide. The BMA has reportedly refused every single urgent plea from hospitals to get junior doctors to cross the picket line and help dying patients, apart from one neonatal case. And they were bragging about that on Twitter today. There you go, they were saying, oh, we have granted a derogation for one junior doctor in the neonatal unit. There we go. Oh, thank you very much for letting a baby live. OK? Hospitals and patients are crying out for help, and union barons have been saying no. Shameful. Now the NHS is going to log, and this is the new bit, going to log every single incident where a patient died or there was a near miss as a result of the junior doctors' strikes. Good, they should do that. And then start prosecuting the union's top brass, maybe. Millions of appointments and operations have been cancelled. During the strikes in April, there were reportedly 11% more deaths than the 5-year average. In 2023, 53,000 more people died than normal, the highest figure in a non-pandemic year since the Second World War. Doctors were on strike for 38 days. We had a worse excess mortality rate than any developed country as of mid-October. The BMA likes to say that its strikes aren't to blame, which in my view is utter BS. They say any increase in excess deaths is a concern, but it is wholly wrong to say that the strikes are the root cause. The two events might have happened at the same time, but correlation is not causation, and any statistician worth their salt will confirm it is impossible and potentially dangerous to attribute the rise to a single cause. Do one, OK? Now, the NHS has had enough. Hospitals have been told to specifically record all safety incidents during strikes, quotes, so that we can evidence harm and near misses which might have been avoided. They then need to use that evidence to make the people encouraging these strikes face justice. And if you are a junior doctor out there on the picket lines, please just bear this in mind. Most people, including myself, think you should have a pay rise. Most people, including myself, are very grateful for the job that you do. So thank you for that. But you are lining up behind a smarmy, independently wealthy plastic unionist who, with his reported mortgage-free flat and director role at Daddy's investment company, isn't being massively financially affected by the strikes, possibly like you are.
I lose pay from going out on strike, yes.
OK. It's just your kind of personal finances is obviously caused quite a lot of scrutiny.
I mean, everyone has different financial circumstances.
Is he really one of you? Is he? I'm sure you genuinely care about the NHS and patients and British healthcare. But does he? He's the BMA Junior Doctor Co-Chair, OK, telling you not to cross the picket line. When the reckoning comes and the death toll rises, do you really want to die on his hill? Should we prosecute BMA leaders for deaths caused by the strikes? To respond to this now, I'm joined again by legendary journalist Harriet Sargent, the always outspoken Benjamin Butterworth, and the editor-at-large of Daily Mail, Charlotte Griffiths. So this is the development today in the strike action by junior doctors, which is that the NHS is telling its hospitals to record now incidents of deaths or near misses that they say are directly linked to the junior doctor strike. Is that a good thing, Harriet?
I think it's an excellent thing. I think what is happening, we keep on having the junior doctors saying that they're doing this, they're striking because they care for patients. If that is the case, why have they chosen this 1 week? This is traditionally the worst week in the whole year for the NHS, for crises, flu, everything else, pent-up demand after Christmas. And yet they have chosen that 1 week. If you actually cared for patients, you would not have chosen that 1 week. The other thing is, I think we should be limiting strikes. And this, when you have something as serious as a doctor's strike, it shouldn't go on for days and days. It should maybe 2 days.
Yeah,
but that's
either side of Christmas we've had it, haven't we? We had loads of strikes last year. I mean, when's the round of strikes that we're going to see in the coming months in this country? Benjamin, should the unionists behind this actually face prosecution if people die?
No. What this shows is how important these junior doctors are. And the fact that they say on the one hand that we can't cope with them, but on the other that we shouldn't pay them properly. Compare them to Canada, where they're paid $46,000.
You know, they went on strike once in Canada, and that was to strike against the public healthcare system.
Well, I mean, fine, that's irrelevant to this scenario, isn't
really.
it? The fact is that our junior doctors are paid £29,000. That's about £20 an hour to have people's lives in their hands after years of training, exceptionally capable people. And they are begging for the government to listen. They are not asking for much.
That, Benjamin.
They are asking just to have the same salary they had 13 years ago in real terms.
I do respect you, but that's not true. They're not paid £29,000 after years. And after
years of training.
After 5 years
of studying.
Of them studying, they are the highest paid graduate job out there. The second one is, I believe, engineers. Right, so they are comparatively well paid to other graduates.
A junior doctor salary is £29,000. That's almost half what they would get if they were just in neighbouring Ireland. That shows how poorly paid they are. And the 35% increase they request would only put them at the same salary they had 13 years ago. The fact is, it is the government which has blood on its hands. And if it took this seriously, it would pay them properly and stop them leaving this country in the NHS.
So should junior doctors, the unions here, I'm not talking about people just all out there on the picket line. Should the union leaders face prosecution if people die, do you think?
I don't know if they should they should face prosecution because already they're kind of struggling to make an impact. And anecdotally, I've got a junior doctor friend who's not on strike, who I spoke to today on the way here, and she said that they're struggling to make an impact. That's why they've gone for the January, because they're desperate now. They're trying to make an impact. And actually, behind the scenes in hospitals, you know, other junior doctors are starting to sort of lose interest in the whole thing.
Right.
So I think if we start prosecuting them, it will actually give too much credence to this whole battle. There'll be too much attention on the whole thing. So I actually think we shouldn't do that, to be honest, no.
OK, I mean, Harriet, the idea that hospitals are now saying, please, 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 can you cross the picket line, please, because we've got people in here dying, and the BMA is saying no to that. I think that's cruel.
Well, I think that's shocking, actually, because they are allowed to do that. The hospital trusts are allowed, that's part of the protocol, to ask them to step across the picket lines.
Yeah.
And the fact they're not doing it is I think, really cruel. There was a man on the Radio 4, which usually backs the doctors and everything, but this old man saying he was claiming that he and his wife, he said, we're poorly, we're in our 70s, and we're just being dropped by the hospital. He's saying that old people like them are just literally being left to die because they can't cope any longer. There's not enough, there's no doctors. And we are talking about people being left in pain and dying.
Look, Benjamin, if it's all about pay, why is it that when I spoke to the co-chair of the BMA Juniors Doctors Union earlier in the week, and I asked him directly, even if you get absolutely everything you're asking for in pay, 35% pay increase, can you guarantee that you will stay in Britain? He said no. It's not about pay, is it? Is it not just about someone playing student politics for people's lives?
No, I mean, historically, a doctor's strike is extremely unusual. I think these were unprecedented.
Well, not anymore, because we've got the old worker arts.
And that shows you how appalling this government and its disregard and disrespect for the NHS and doctors is. The fact is that this could end if only they paid them the same as what they were paid when they came into office 13, 14 years ago. And I think most people understand that it takes exceptional responsibility and skill to be a doctor.
It also costs a lot to train them. It's the most expensive degree that we have, so it costs the taxpayer the most money.
I'm sorry, Patrick, but if you're going to log these people and say they're prosecuted for having strike days and someone gets really sick or dies, well, why don't you do the same for the ones that have left the NHS for Canada or Australia or the US because they weren't paid enough? Why don't you do it both ways?
What, prosecute them for leaving?
Well, you're saying that they should be prosecuted for trying to get better pay. Well, I tell you what, they leave altogether, so you don't have a doctor 365 days a year if you don't pay them properly. And that's why they're on strike.
Right, there aren't actually enough places in places like Canada and Australia to house all the doctors that are supposedly desperate to leave. It is not an outright land of milk and honey over there. They have a different healthcare system there that those same doctors' unions won't allow us to implement over here at the moment as well. And Charlotte, I've just got to ask, patients at the moment being told, if you really can, please leave hospital, please leave hospital. We've got one of the highest health budgets of anywhere in the world. This cannot just be about taxpayers' money.
No, I don't think it is. I mean, Another anecdote, my mum was supposed to have an operation on the 4th and hers got cancelled, and it was actually quite a serious and important operation. But she's actually behind the strike. She thinks she's pleased, even though it's a really important operation, she's actually quite pleased because she thinks that we should be paying the doctors a bit more money. So there are patients out there who are actually in support of the strikes, even as they're having their operations cancelled. But I just think they should be compromising on this 35% number. It's just too high. They just need to come down a bit and not bring it up so high in the first place.
I think it's going to... Yeah, I mean, I think the receipts to this are going to be absolutely fascinating when we do see NHS hospitals publishing data at some point in the future about the amount of people who have either died or the amount of near misses that there were as a result of the junior doctors' strike. And I think the public will change on that very quick.
Well, I think this should be done throughout the NHS, not just over junior doctors' strike, but on every single part of the NHS, logging when patients come to harm, as I have seen investigating
Absolutely,
the NHS.
because it was the moment the BMA, the union leaders are hiding behind this and saying, we've always had critical incidents. Oh, no, look, it's always been a bit like this. And yeah, there have been, but now they shouldn't be able to actually say, well, you can't link any of these deaths to actually our action. And I think it's important that they have to face the consequences.